Good evening, everyone. I hope you are doing very, very well by the grace of God. If you've never met me before, my name is Larissa Assam. I am a family medicine doctor by God's grace. And I own a private practice called Rofi MD. And tonight, I want to talk to you about some of the updates which are happening in the health insurance world because I think this is very important. Very, very important. So, without further ado, I don't like actually taking very long on lives. So, I like to actually just get right into the discussion. But, like I said, my name is Larissa. So, I'm nice to meet you. If you do have health insurance questions, I'm certainly no expert. Okay. But you can ask your questions and I'll try to the best of my ability to answer them. And if I don't have the answers, I can either give you a resource, point you in the right direction, and we can go from there. Now, my disclaimer is that everything I share on my social media platform is really for educational purposes. This is not formal medical advice. If you do want to see me for a consultation, you are welcome to schedule a formal consultation and we can take it from there. And the links to those to that would essentially be in my bio if you're on Instagram, or if you're tuning in on Facebook, you're welcome to send me a message. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. There are a lot of changes happening in the healthcare space, and I want to make sure that, at least for my sphere of influence, if you follow me, if you are one of my patients, even, that you're aware of what is happening in the healthcare landscape so that you're not caught unawares once we enter into 2026. So, first things first, we are currently in open enrollment season. What does that mean? This is a period of time during which people are signing up for healthcare insurance. Okay. Now, you can get insurance through your job, you can also get insurance through the marketplace. And you may have heard of Obamacare. You may have heard of the Affordable Care Act. This has been a highly politicized discussion, actually, in the US. But that notwithstanding, this is the period of time wherein people decide whether they're going to stay with the insurance they currently have or they're going to make a change. Now, sometimes what happens is people don't realize that if you don't intentionally go and check the terms of your insurance, you're going to be automatically re enrolled in whatever you were in before. Now, things have changed recently in the healthcare space, and they're set to change even more in the upcoming year, with insurance premiums going up over 12%. Some even believe to go up even up to over 15%. In addition to that, depending on where you live, the coverage now looks different. Um, I If you're based in the Maryland area, for example, one of the biggest, actually the biggest healthcare network in Maryland is the Hopkins Network. And they recently decided, at least for now, that they are no longer in partnership with United Healthcare, which is one of the biggest health insurance companies out there. So that is a huge deal. Depending on where you are, you want to kind of know what's going on insurance wise. And it can feel a bit overwhelming. It can also feel a bit confusing. And so, to the best of my ability, I just want to explain a few things that are going on as I understand them. And I'm learning too. So, the more I understand them, the more I can share with you guys. But essentially, the goal is to kind of simplify this entire healthcare system, which, by the way, is pretty complicated. So, if you feel like you don't fully understand it, it's actually okay. It's not the easiest thing to really grasp, even if you're in it. So let's start with looking at numbers. So in 2025, so this year, right, the average insurance plan cost, it was about $27,000. Okay. Um, Oh, okay. Wow. Someone said, Crystal just said, healthcare costs increased 25% for 2026 at my company. Okay. So you are the perfect person who should be on this call because that's a huge jump. Huge, huge, huge jump. 25%. And that's the thing. It really varies on the employer. People who are getting insurance through the marketplace, which is a lot of CEOs, they are actually having three times the rate that they were paying in 2025 for 2026. So this is very important. I read a comment online earlier when I was reading an article, and it said that it feels like you're paying a second rent or a second mortgage every year with health insurance. And it shouldn't feel that way. Health insurance was literally created for what we call catastrophic needs. So God forbid something happens and you actually end up needing like a surgery, or you end up needing to go to the emergency room. Most of the time when people go to the emergency room, the reasons why they're going are actually not emergency room related concerns. They're just going because they don't have access to primary care, because primary care is hard to come by, and people have very long wait times, some places even 3 to 6 months, if not longer. I have some colleagues who are not even taking patients for the next year even. So it can be quite hard to come by. But I'm going to give you guys solutions. So just stay put, and then we'll definitely get into the solution. So $27,000, right, for the year, right? Now then, if you're employed and you're getting the coverage through your job, right? Your employer is going to cover most of that. However, this is just an average with the numbers that I'm using. You would still be expected to pay about 6,850. So that equates to a monthly cost of $570 for health insurance. Okay, $570. And again, this just gives you access to like typical healthcare, wherein you still have to deal with the wait times. You have to deal with, being one out of over 2,000, if not 3,000 patients in a panel, etc., etc. So even with that premium, it depends. So the premium is the monthly amount that you're paying. Now, every insurance provider is different, okay? Sometimes, depending on the contract, you may have to pay up to X amount of money. For example, $2,000 or $5,000 out of pocket before the insurance company will cover anything. This actually happened to one of my patients. They were actually seeing a lot of great outcomes with their health as we were working together. But the insurance company they only agreed to reimburse for the visit $15 for a visit that was over an hour long, okay? And in that case, the patient was hit with the bill. So they were like, nope, the patient has to meet their deductible. So the deductible is the amount that you have to pay before the insurance company will then pay anything out. It's called the deductible. The amount you pay first before your insurance kicks in. So just because you have insurance doesn't mean that it's quote unquote going to be them paying out from day one. That's why you have to look at the numbers. You have to look at the premium, and you have to look at the deductible. It's also a good idea to look at your copay, which is the amount that you would have to pay to the doctor's office directly, whether it's primary care or specialist. It could be $20, $30, $40. It depends. It really depends on your insurance company. So we've talked about the premium. This is the amount that you pay every month, okay? Whether you see the doctor or not. So that $575.80 that I talked about, you have to pay that amount regardless of whether or not you're going to see the doctor. It's kind of like your monthly rent for having health insurance. Now, then the deductible is the amount that you have to pay out of your pocket, in addition to the monthly payment of the $570 coming directly out of your job. So people often say, oh, I got free insurance through my job. It's not free. It's actually not free. It's coming out of your paycheck. So it's very important to know that. And the annual cost is about $7,000. So just be aware of that. And then on top of that, depending on the plan, you still have this deductible that you have to account for. Then the insurance will start covering it. So what is going on? Why are the costs going higher? Number one, hospitals are merging. The landscape is just changing. When hospitals merge and they combine, the prices they can charge more. And so that happens because there's less competition, right? And so it works out well for them. In addition to that, the majority of the costs in healthcare actually goes towards administration. This is things like billing insurance, the paperwork that's needed, the leadership that's required, at different hospitals, different levels, insurance approvals. All these systems, they cost money. And so who pays for it? Unfortunately, it's actually the person who has the health insurance. And then the chronic disease burden is also higher. Just before this call, someone sent me a message and they said that for those who are over 60, 9 out of 10 people over 60 have at least one chronic disease. And for those who are, I believe it was 18 to 35 years old, 18 to 35, at least 60% of people who are aged 18 to 34, 35 have at least one chronic disease. So when you have chronic diseases, high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, the high risk pregnancies too, what happens is it costs money. It costs money for medication, costs money for testing, and these things drive up the premiums. You'll be surprised to know actually that even the fact that GLP-1s, they're very popular now, but these are also contributing actually to driving the cost of healthcare. So it's very multifaceted, but I think it's very important to know. I see one of my colleagues on tonight and she said, preach, listen, this is what we're dealing with. It's really unfortunate. So even though you're paying more, it takes months, weeks to get seen. The visits are rushed. Oh, by the way, doctors are limited by how much time they can spend with patients because insurance will only pay up to a certain amount for the most part. Now, things have changed. We can do time-based billing, but it really depends. And you can bill for a certain visit, like the example I shared earlier, but it's really at their discretion how much they're going to pay at the end of the day. And that's causing a lot of doctors to be frustrated. So a lot of doctors are also deciding, like, what, forget it, especially in primary care. A lot of doctors are getting frustrated and saying, like, what, I don't even want to deal with it anymore, forget it. So that is the landscape. That is the lay of the land. Now, I want to give you solutions. I want to give you solutions. There are things you can do. There are ways you can go about this. If you have ever had a subscription like Costco or Netflix or even your phone bill, yeah. Think of any monthly subscription. Did you know that you can actually do something similar, but for healthcare? So there is a world in the medical space called membership-based medicine. And in membership-based medicine, what happens is for a set monthly price, you have access to see the same healthcare provider, right? Oftentimes, if you are going to join a membership-based practice and going to pay a certain amount, then that removes the whole insurance situation. So the need for the long wait times, the rushed visits, that kind of gets taken away. Most of the time, you can get in to see your doctor somewhere between 24 to 48 hours. You can ask your doctor questions just by sending them a simple text message. There's so many ways to go about it, but in my humble opinion, it makes for a very, very good quality healthcare. And at least for me, medicine is something I wanted to do when I was 7. I actually didn't grow up in America. And when I was growing up, this is what I saw. Doctors would do home visits. They would be able to just call and ask questions or send a message and ask questions. You would literally see the doctor in the community. And this still exists in America. I just want you to know that. So if you are currently working, please know that you can ask your employer about something called an HSA, okay? An HSA, which is a health savings account. Or you can also inquire about an FSA, which is a flexible spending account. So an HSA or an FSA is actually tax sheltered money that you can use for 2 good reasons. One, certainly to invest, but secondly, you can now take those funds and use that to get access to a doctor in a membership-based model, right? Who can take care of you, take away the long wait times, take away the 3 to 6 months wait times. And for context, majority of health problems that most people have who are pretty healthy, what have you, the average person, 90% of those problems are solved by primary care doctors, okay? Now, of primary care visits, 90% of those visits can actually be dealt with virtually. You can do exams virtually. There's so many things you can do. And I think, in my humble opinion, it actually makes for better care, because you can actually show patients how to monitor themselves, how to do vital signs, etc., etc. So at Rofi MD, by God's grace, which is my private practice, we do membership-based medicine. Okay. So if you are looking for a doctor, I mentioned the price of insurance. 570 is actually very much on the higher end, for significantly lower. And I want you to go ahead and send a message. Let's schedule a complimentary consultation, and I'll even talk to you on a case-by-case basis on what would be best for you. But I just don't want people to lose access to healthcare, now sit with health conditions, or even be at risk and not even know. There's so much that you can do, but I want us to stop thinking just in one way, right? You can use a health savings account. There are even health shares, which are called, there's one called Zion, I believe. You could do a monthly rate. And by the way, if you are an entrepreneur, you can write off these costs. You can write off these costs. So please know that there are so many options available. Don't be frantic. Don't freak out. If you really plan well, most people who are making the switch are finding that they're about to save thousands of dollars actually in healthcare. So please make sure that you go ahead and schedule a complimentary consultation. So I'm going to actually end it there for today. I don't want this to be very long, but I pray that it was helpful to you, and we'll go from there. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. I don't take it lightly. Have a good night. I'll see what time I can come on tomorrow. Maybe 3 p.m. ish. We'll see. All right. Take care.